NFL. I know you're hot on Kyler Murray, but there's some reports out there that he's kind of struggling to grasp the intricate Kevin O'Connell offense. J.J. McCarthy, no problems because he was there last year. Here's Justin Jefferson talking about Kyler Murray's learning curve.
I definitely understand his just difficulty of understanding some things just because this offense is difficult, and especially going against our defense, seeing the different coverages, seeing the roles, the disguises that our defense do, it's really going to help him out when the season comes if he's the starting quarterback. So, he's going to get to that point where he knows it like the back of his hand, and he's calling the plays freely. He understands the defenses and everything rolling to the different sides and coverages. So it's just really, cool to see him picking it up as fast as he has.
I'm gonna let Colin and J-Mac talk, but the reason why I'm laughing is because I just love Justin Jefferson. I just love how he carries himself, the things he says, the way he goes about it. So many people give such bad interviews and are so bad at the mic. I could listen to Justin Jefferson talk all day, so that's why I'm laughing and smiling, not because of specifically what he's saying or because I don't think he's right or anything like that. I listen to him and I'm like, I can listen to him talk ball all day.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's June. They're gonna be okay.
Kyler Murray's going to be okay?
Yeah, Kyler's going to win the starting job. What I think is interesting is what if the Chargers make a call on J.J. McCarthy?
Well, you don't need to do it this early. I mean, you could try to buy low if it's clear that he ain't going to play.
Well, when Kyler gets named the starting quarterback, you think J.J. is going to be in a good mood?
Well, I don't think he has no, he's probably going to be ticked off. Maybe that'll motivate him.
That's when you move him out of the room.
Yeah, you've been a backup once or twice in your career. You didn't just get me out of here.
Long time ago.
You got to battle. You got to fight for everything in life. It's a good learning lesson for JJ.
Yeah, I think he feels...
No free lunches, my friend.
I think between the injuries, he's been embattled. He's had a tough run. I mean, he had some confidence issues. He had injury issues.
Yeah, Kyler had no issues in Arizona. I mean, he one playoff appearance.
The difference is Minnesota's contextualize it as always. Minnesota's a much better run operation than, Arizona's on a short list with the Jets, and Cleveland is a dysfunctional organization.
I know the audience loves that. Anytime you want to get back at me, you just say dysfunctional and Jets.
Well, it's true.
All right, let's steer clear of launching into a tirade about the New York Jets. Because frankly, nobody has the bandwidth for that right now. That's a dead end. But I do find it interesting how Colin's argument essentially undermines its own premise, specifically regarding the whole notion of needing to move on from J.J. McCarthy and the urgency surrounding that situation. The underlying implication is that McCarthy needs an escape route, that he needs to be extracted from wherever he is. The counterpoint, however, is that the Minnesota Vikings are, by all accounts, a highly functional, well-run organization. Therefore, if any franchise is equipped to get him back on track, it's this one. Generally speaking, that's how these things work, right? We've seen the narrative play out countless times. Malik Willis finds a new lease on life in Green Bay. Sam Darnold, after a stint in San Francisco, resurrects his career in Minnesota. The common thread is that those players had to flee from dysfunctional franchises. They needed to escape toxic environments that were stifling their development. That is unequivocally not the case with J.J. McCarthy. He's walking into a stable, structured situation, not a burning building. And while we're on the subject of injuries, let's talk about Kyler Murray. The guy is small in stature and has a history of getting banged up. We cannot pick and choose when we weaponize injury history against a player. If it's a legitimate critique for one, it's a legitimate critique for another. You can't selectively apply that standard. And Kyler isn't getting any younger or any larger. The physical profile is what it is, and it's not going to change. So, the conversation remains utterly fascinating to me, not necessarily because of the surface-level content, but because of the way it's being framed and reframed continuously. We've circled this topic before, but there are always new angles to explore, new layers to peel back. I'm genuinely excited to dig into this specifically because of what's written in that bottom corner of the screen. But before we dive headfirst into the thick of it, I have a humble request for the Minnesota Vikings faithful out there. Please, please, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel and commit to watching this video in its entirety. When you take that extra step, the engagement metrics absolutely skyrocket. The view counts climb, the subscriber numbers surge, and I want to be clear, this isn't some shallow ploy to chase vanity metrics. It's not about inflating numbers for the sake of numbers. The true goal is to sustain the production of Minnesota Vikings content that you, the viewers, genuinely find valuable and want to engage with. That's the only way we can maintain these consistent, unfiltered, grounded, and honest dialogues about the team. Your commitment to watching the full video makes a tangible, colossal difference, and I truly cannot overstate my appreciation for it. Now, let's get into substance. The biggest thing that stood out to me, as I always say when I'm scouting for content, is that I never watch the video first unless I explicitly tell you otherwise. 99% of the time, I'm going in blind. I scan the description, I look at what's being discussed in the comments or the title, and I see something like, Kyler Murray remains favorite to win Vikings starting quarterback job. And my immediate reaction is, well, yeah, of course he is. He's the veteran. That report is essentially a non-story. But then you layer on the additional reports that he's struggling, and that's where things get interesting. Here's the reality. I've been hammering this point for a while now. When quarterbacks enter a new system, struggle is a natural, expected part of the process. It makes sense. Even for a seasoned veteran, there's going to be a learning curve. We're talking about human beings, not robots. Tom Brady had his moments of adjustment. Patrick Mahomes isn't perfect. So, you expect some bumps in the road. However, it's supposed to look different if you're supposed to be this elite, transcendent quarterback. The entire premise surrounding Kyler Murray is not that he's a reclamation project in the mold of Sam Darnold or Daniel Jones. I fundamentally disagree with lumping him into that category. The narrative is that Kyler Murray is actually an elite quarterback who has been held hostage by a bad team, bad coaching, bad ownership, and bad rosters. He's the diamond in the rough, the superstar waiting to be rescued. It's being painted in a very specific light. In many ways, the Stafford comparison is apartment. Matthew Stafford was never a reclamation project. He was an elite quarterback trapped in a dysfunctional organization. He gets to Sean McVay and the Rams, he's surrounded by a competent roster and a brilliant play caller, and he wins a Super Bowl immediately. The idea is that Stafford was ready to go, he just needed the right ecosystem. That's what they're trying to sell with Kyler Murray. But the comparison falls apart under scrutiny because Kyler Murray was given far more opportunity than Sam Darnold ever was prior to Minnesota. It's not even close. And we're not even factoring in the stylistic differences, the approach to the game, the work ethic, the preparation, the mentality. I touched on this in my previous video, the one I made about the Vikings the other day, where I said, just look at the differences. The offense functioned more efficiently with Jacoby Brissett than it did with Kyler Murray in Arizona. That's not an opinion, that's just a fact. It's a statistical reality. Yet, we're supposed to believe that Kyler can parachute onto a new team, assimilate a complex offense instantly, and lead the Vikings to greatness without any significant issues. That's the narrative, and it's the one I keep trying to challenge. The Minnesota Vikings should be in a Super Bowl window. This isn't about being competitive, this is about achieving greatness. That's the objective. It's what the Rams recognized when they had Jared Goff. They looked at the situation and said, Goff isn't there yet, and we don't want to waste this window. They understood that Stafford was a better quarterback who was ready to win immediately. They made the move, they improved the roster, and they won a championship. Goff, by the way, has since proven to be a very good quarterback with plenty of success in Detroit. He wasn't the reason they lost that NFC Championship game in 23. So, the question becomes, what are we trying to achieve here? What is the ultimate goal? It's not a matter of who is the favorite to win the starting quarterback job in a training camp battle. That's a trivial concern. The real question is, who can achieve greatness with the Minnesota Vikings? If Jacoby Brissett was better with the Arizona Cardinals than Kyler Murray, who would be better with the Minnesota Vikings right now? It's an interesting thought experiment. You can't just say, well, the Cardinals are a mess, like the Jets. Why did Brissett look better? Why was the offense a smoother operation with him under center? You can't use the veteran argument either, because at this stage of their careers, they're both seasoned professionals. It makes sense for a player like J.J. McCarthy, it was his first year as a starter, he was injured, he's only in his second year. Those are valid excuses. But those excuses run out for Kyler Murray. They've been exhausted. Now, I've made many videos discussing the complexity of learning a new offensive system. I've shown clips from people who know football far more intimately than any of us do, explaining that it takes years to truly master a system. We saw it with Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, with Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson, with Bo Nix and Sean Payton. I agree with all of that. But if Jalen Hurts were to struggle to grasp the system for an entire season, I'd give him the benefit of the doubt, but I'd be pretty disappointed. It would be a mark against him. It wouldn't mean he's a bad quarterback, but it would force me to recalibrate my expectations. Resiliency is a massive factor for me. It's something that isn't discussed enough, but it's crucial: how a quarterback handles adversity, how he responds to a bad play or a bad game. That's why I expect that if Kyler is the quarterback everyone says he is, these reports of significant struggles should be minimal, if not non-existent. And if you want to point to the defense he's facing in practice, Brian Flores' scheme is notoriously complex. But case in point, Jalen Hurts was phenomenal against Brian Flores' defense. He had a perfect passer rating in that game. And sure, he had weapons, but so do the Minnesota Vikings. They have Justin Jefferson, they have Kevin O'Connell. The infrastructure is there. So, if these reports continue to linger, it's concerning. Now, to be fair, you can always struggle in practices. It's one of the most overblown storylines in football. If you're not struggling in practices, you're probably not working hard enough. You need to take chances, find the limits of the system, and be comfortable making mistakes. If you're not comfortable making mistakes in practice, you'll be paralyzed in a game. You have to overthink things, you have to dig deep. So, hearing some of these things makes sense, up to a point. Up to a point. My gut tells me there's more to this than meets the eye. There's a deeper layer to Kyler Murray's struggles that isn't being fully aired out, because there's always the convenient fallback of the Arizona Cardinals are a mess. And they are. The GM situation, the ownership, the coaching carousel. Murray has had multiple general managers and multiple head coaches. It's consistently voted as one of the worst organizations by the NFLPA. Add in injuries to Kyler himself and to the team around him, and the context is murky. And I know everyone hangs on to the plays video games narrative, the whole clause in his contract and all that. It's hard to know if that was blown out of proportion or if it was a legitimate problem, but it was also years ago. Are we still holding that against him? So, where do I land with all of this? I think there's more than meets the eye. When you hear about players like Sam Darnold or Kirk Cousins, you want to know one of their shared traits? They absolutely, 100% live for football. They're so dialed in, so focused, and they care so deeply. Sam Darnold put in an incredible amount of work to become the reclamation project he was. Kirk Cousins is the quarterback that all these coaches want because of the conversations, the effort, and the intelligence he brings. That's why Sean McVay wants Kirk Cousins. That's why Kyle Shanahan wants Kirk Cousins. That's why Kevin O'Connell wanted Kirk Cousins. That's what he brings to the table. Sam Darnold has a lot of those shared characteristics. He said he learned from Brock Purdy, that he's trying to become the best quarterback he can be by learning from everyone he can. That is not how Kyler Murray is built. He is built on the premise of, do you know who I am? He essentially said that to Dan Orlovsky. Orlovsky said he interviewed Kyler before a game, and Murray's attitude was, I just need the ball in my hands. I need to be the playmaker. Orlovsky's response was, no, bro, that's not how it works. And this was within this calendar year, this isn't ancient history. So, what fundamentally changes from that? Can he finally mature and go beyond that? I would hope so, but then I question, why not yet? Why hasn't this already been done? If Kevin O'Connell's system is so complicated, and going against Brian Flores' defense is that demanding, and you have to put in all that work and preparation, is Kyler Murray built for that? Because I know Sam Darnold is. I know Kirk Cousins is. We've seen it. I was impressed even with the conversations I saw with Dak Prescott. The things he was talking about with Mike McCarthy, how he felt McCarthy really improved him, the things they were working on. The thing I appreciated was Dak saying, I need to get better. I want to be better, and I'm allowing this coach to make me better. That's not always the default for a quarterback, at all. At that point, Dak was established, he could have been arrogant about it. Instead, he was humble. Does Kyler Murray have that? Is that his approach? Has he truly been humbled by Arizona moving on from him? Was he humbled watching Jacoby Brissett run the offense better than he did? I think one of Colin's best takes ever is about these ultra-athletic or really big, strong quarterbacks. Whether it's Kyler or Carson Wentz, it's hard to get them to play a different way. It's hard to get them to really understand what they need to do to be successful. It seems a little bit easier for the Tom Bradys and the Kirk Cousins of the world, because they know they have to rely on preparation and precision to survive. I keep ending all my Minnesota Vikings videos by saying I'm really excited and interested to see how it's all going to unfold. I'm entertained by how the conversations are simply being had. Kyler's struggling. What does that actually mean? Kyler remains favorite to win the Vikings starting quarterback job. Then Justin Jefferson has to answer for Kyler in interviews, talking about the complexities of the defenses he's facing. That shows you the situation is messier than you'd ever want it to be. And my point is, you're trying to win a Super Bowl, not just be a good team. Any of this other stuff is annoying, frustrating, and extra baggage. We can say it's outside noise, but think about your own life. When you have other stuff going on, it affects your work. You're not a machine, and neither are they. Don't lose sight of the fact that this team was a bona fide Super Bowl contender. This team was a legitimate Super Bowl contender with great coaching on both sides that may not last. We saw it with all the Halfleys, with Jesse Minters, with Mike McDonald, with DeMeco Ryans. Brian Flores wants that for himself. He wants to be a head coach. Robert Saleh failed in New York, went to the 49ers for 1 year, and boom, he's a head coach again. That's going to be Brian Flores' path. And then will this elite defense remain elite? It's going to go through growing pains and changes. So, you have to seize the day, man. You have to seize the opportunity. The Detroit Lions fans were arguing with me in 2024 that they were in a 10-year Super Bowl window. I was like, what are you talking about? You have a chance now. You've got Ben Johnson, you've got all this talent. Make a move for your defense. Take a big swing. And they didn't do it. Fans said, oh, we're not wasting capital. We're in a 10-year window. Well, they didn't win in 24, they didn't even make the playoffs in 25, Ben Johnson is gone, they've had to fire a coordinator, they've had to have their head coach take over. Our play calling, and their defense is a mess. How's that 10-year Super Bowl window looking for you? Could you still be competitive? Of course. But you were in an amazing situation a couple of years ago, and you didn't have to problem solve or troubleshoot. Things change quick. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Minnesota Vikings? How do reports like this land for you at this point? You hear Kyler's kind of struggling, but then it can also make total perfect sense why he is. You also hear he remains the favorite to win the Vikings starting quarterback job, which again, makes sense from a veteran versus younger player perspective. How do you make sense of it all? What do these reports mean to you, if anything at all? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. I read every single comment. So, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get into some discussions. Let's get into some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. It really does help visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.